Good morning. Climate change is a top-of-mind issue for many Canadians ahead of this fall's federal election. But you may end up hearing a whole lot less on the topic ahead of the vote because of a new ruling from Elections Canada. Michael Serapio is going to begin our coverage of the story, explaining what the rule is and why it's making some environment charities, Michael, feel the chill.
Feeling the chill, and that's because the Elections Canada has essentially said that if anyone talks about environment and climate change, well, that could be considered a partisan issue this time around. And as a result, we're hearing from environmental groups. They're saying that already that's going to alter what we're going to see and hear during this election campaign. Environment and climate change, big issues, but the most knowledgeable in this country among them may actually have to be silenced and sit on the sidelines because of this new rule. Take a listen to Tim Gray of Environmental Defense.
Not theoretical, it's real. It will silence us. We need to comply with the law, obviously, as charities and as organizations living within the constraints of the legal system in Canada. We will not undertake public comment that is offside with the legal opinions of Elections Canada.
So why this change from Elections Canada? Well, according to Tim Gray, this all boils down to Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada, and that's because of the major political parties expected to win seats in this campaign. The People's Party and Bernier are the only ones that really cast doubt on climate change. So to keep third parties out of that debate, Elections Canada is making this declaration labeling climate change a partisan issue. And that does not immediately forbid any outside group from talking about it. But if a group spends, say, for example, more than $500 on anything like a social media campaign or a poll, well, then that group would have to register as a third party in the election, and that could harm the charitable status of environmental groups. So an indirect muzzle coming at a time when environment is a huge issue for countries around the world, when the United Nations is making a warning about climate change, and when many political leaders have likened climate change to an existential threat to our species. Take a listen once again to Tim Gray.
The question I think that needs to be asked is, why is the law structured in a way that silences people speaking the truth about a scientific reality during the election cycle? Why is it that we're not allowed to say that climate change is happening when only people that are completely out of touch with the social, political, scientific, and social consensus around this issue are taking that position?
And again, it's about charitable status here, because if they register as a third party, they could lose charitable status, which would put many environmental groups, their very existence, at threat. So they can't talk about the greater threat come this election campaign if they are following Election Canada rules by the law or by the letter.
And it was an Election Canada training session which briefed them on this new rule and the new way they were going to have to act. They've registered publicly their disquiet over what this means for them. What about broader public reaction? What are we hearing?
Well, of course, many people care about this issue, very concerned that this is happening. Take a look at some of the reaction we're getting on social media here. Nancy has this to say: Elections Canada does not need to clarify this. I don't think that Bernier speaks for all Canada, and Canada wants environmental change. Quebec supports environmental changes and supporting the quota system for dairy, not Bernier, who needs to be elected in Quebec. Sean, send this one out. Elections Canada, is this a joke? Is Ashton Kutcher going to jump out of nowhere? This is absolutely embarrassing. And one more here from Manal and Amen, who says, Elections Canada warns groups that saying water is wet could be considered partisan. So we should point out, Heather, that we're now reaching out to the political parties to get their reaction. This has been talked about, but it's now percolating, so we'll give you any update.
And Elections Canada, too, if there's further pressure on them. All right, Michael, thank you very much. More to come on that story today.